Hi guys, Josie here. So it is officially the start of the F1 summer break, which means that F1 fans around the world will now be trying to find hobbies to do for the next 4 weeks. Luckily for me, I am actually a MotoGP fan as well, so my next couple of weeks are taken up with races. There is unfortunately that little bit of a gap between one race and the bank holiday. Thankfully, we can just jump straight back into normal racing with there being both the start of the second half of the season and the MotoGP race at Silverstone. Before the summer break officially got underway, there was some testing in Hungary. If you haven't already seen the timing sheets for day one, it's not that surprising, but if you haven't been paying attention to the junior series, you won't have a clue who anyone is. So if you look at the testing timesheets, you will see that Charles Leclerc was actually top, which leads me quite nicely onto what my video is about. I decided to take a look at the junior talent that is in the field. I have done a few posts about this before in the past on my blog. But I decided that because majority of them got to come out and demonstrate their skills in testing and in some of the races beforehand at Hungary, it was the perfect opportunity. So I'll start off with Mercedes and their junior driver George Russell. I think George is amazing. He has actually not really been on my radar until I started to go more onto Twitter when I got really into GP3 last year. Obviously he wasn't driving in a GP3 car, but he was having banter with some of the drivers, the other British drivers on there. I hadn't really paid attention to his driving until I caught sight of him one day on there and decided, I might give F3 a try. And I wasn't disappointed at all. George is a brilliant driver. He was one of the top, I think he came third in the 2016 series. Not exactly that far behind the likes of Lance Stroll, who has obviously now moved on to a permanent Williams seat. It's phenomenal for someone so young, of 19 years old, to then have this opportunity to progress with the likes of Mercedes and get to test in what is arguably one of the best cars on the grid. I mean, Mercedes have been dominant in Formula One for years now, and for him to only be in his teens and to be put into the beast that is a Mercedes car is just absolutely unreal. If you watch him in the likes of GP3, you will see his talent. He is a phenomenal driver, and I can't actually explain how good of a driver he is. You would have to watch the GP3 series. Watch it, seriously, watch it. You won't be disappointed. And you will get to see how fantastic of a driver George Russell is. In the Hungary testing, he did place fourth on the timing sheets, which, if you look at the first day of testing, he was ahead of Verstappen. Everyone knows what a talented driver Verstappen is. He's young, he's ballsy, and he came ahead of him. Fair enough, it was such a brilliant car, but he managed to hold his own. He managed to rocket up the timings and get this fantastic fourth place, not all that far behind Valtteri. So I'll move on to the next garage down, which is obviously Ferrari. Ferrari have two of my favourite junior drivers to ever walk the paddock: Charles Leclerc and Antonio Giovinazzi. If you follow me on the likes of Twitter or even Instagram, I like to express my opinion on Antonio on Instagram quite a lot, and if you follow me and you don't like him, I am very sorry, but you are wrong. But whatever. I haven't been a Ferrari fangirl for probably a decade now, and I am quite honestly considering reverting back to my love of the prancing ponies if Charles and Antonio get the seat they deserve. I'll start off with Charles. I first saw him race in person in Silverstone in 2016. Rookie season of GP3, he was already dominating. I think I remember looking at it and thinking, wow, he's really, really young. And at the time I was watching him driving a Haas car in FP1. And I remember it coming over the tannoy, oh, this 18-year-old monogas driver. And I was just like, what? 18 and you're in a Haas car? What is this absolute nonsense? But then at the time, Verstappen was also in a Red Bull, and it was just wasn't really gonna go for the age thing. But I watched him driving and I watched his control of the car. He wasn't, I think he was actually last on the timing, but he wasn't like ages and ages behind the rest of the field. So I was thinking, yeah, he is definitely someone I need to keep an eye on. As I got more into GP3, I continued to watch him go, and I spent weekend after weekend willing him to win this championship. And then it wasn't too long after Silverstone that I found out that he did used to be mentored by Jules Bianchi, and he was his godfather. If you follow me on social media, as I said before, you may have already seen this. I do actually have a Bianchi tattoo on the back of my neck, the number 17, which I got in December. Bianchi was one of my favourite drivers. He will always be one of my favourite drivers, if not my favourite. I think he was a talent that is sorely missed, and that is one of the things I love about Charles. Not just his impeccable, outstanding driving, it's the fact that he's a genuinely nice person, and he always dedicates his wins to the likes of Jules, now to his father, who has sadly passed away a few months ago, and to his team. He always gives his team recognition. If something goes wrong, he never turns around and blames them. He is a genuinely nice person. That is what some drivers completely lose when they get into F1. They become big-headed, their egos get in the way, and they don't give other people recognition. They don't say thank you, which is obviously just general manners. And Charles hasn't got that ego, and yet he still has the fan club and the talent. And I think once he gets into F1, he will be a world champion. I will put my money on that. Charles Leclerc in F1, world champion. Moving on. Antonio. Antonio is my favourite junior driver to ever exist. I am vocal about Antonio. I have a video on my phone from one of my friends from Monaco when I couldn't actually get near him, and I wussed out, actually. That's a total lie. I wussed out. I saw him at a charity football match and he was inches from me, and I sank in my seat like I had melted into a puddle, and I was so embarrassing. My friends looked at me as if they wanted to murder me. It was embarrassing. But one of my friends then, who works for Williams, then pulled through and got me a video of him just saying ciao Josie. So Antonio is an amazing driver. If you watched him in his GP2 rookie season, which was his only GP2 season, he came second to his then teammate Pierre Gasly, who was a veteran, or is a veteran, of GP2. Pierre had been racing for 3 seasons, and I don't think he was actually expecting Antonio to be as good as he was when he came in. So Antonio just kind of rocks up in GP2, has a terrible start to the season, gets to Baku, totally turns it round, gets a double win, comes from back of the grid to the front. At that moment I knew that boy was something. That boy was magic. That was the point when I was like, yep, man like Gio. That was the moment when watching him overtaking in such a windy, narrow street circuit like Baku, that was the moment I knew he was going to be something special and he'd be one to watch. And I was so happy when he got picked to be Ferrari's 3rd driver. I was absolutely over the moon, and I think the entire Twitter tagged me in these posts. Like, I come on my lunch break at work, and if there's been a mention of him in articles, I'm tagged in them. There's just, my notifications is just Antonio, and I'm just like, okay guys, not helping my obsession here, I need an intervention. But if you ever watch him race, he is a bit of a hothead in an F1 car. If you watch him, he has massive oversteer, hence why he ends up in the wall a lot. You just have to look at his 2 races with Sauber, his practicing with Haas in Hungary. He was not the worst on the grid for walls. I think the likes of Lance Stroll and Julian Palmer are a bit more attracted to walls than Antonio, but yeah, he has some work to do, and I know the likes of Haas and Sauber and Ferrari are trying to work on this with him, because they are trying to get the potential out of him. And it is obvious how much potential he has looking back on his junior series. If you haven't already watched any of Antonio's races, try and find Baku 2016, either the feature or the sprint race, and you will see what I mean by pure and utter amazing magic. I'm going to stop fangirling now, otherwise it's going to get out of hand. And next up is Red Bull. So we have Pierre Gasly. I know the majority of these guys have been in testing, so if you watched it, if you read about it, you will know how good they are. Pierre, I rate Pierre, but I don't think he is one of the best juniors. Apologies, Pierre. Obviously being put into Super Formula rather than getting an F1 car F1 seat was a total kick in the teeth for him, and I honestly do feel for him. He is a good driver, but to be so close to your teammate in the standings when you're a veteran and he's a rookie doesn't bode well for your future. Pierre is an amazing driver. You just have to watch back through his GP2 career and through his testing. I haven't really paid attention to his Super Formula career, and I didn't see his FE debut, which I'm really devastated about because I know he came from 19th to 7th, and I think that is absolutely outstanding, especially with the FE circuits. He is amazing at overtakes. He's fast, he's calm to an extent. He's got the skills, he's got the knowledge. He does deserve an F1 seat, and it pains me to say this as someone that is a Danny Kvyat fan, or was a massive Danny Kvyat fan, but I honestly think Danny's career is heading to the bin, and at the minute I think that it's a case of Danny needs to get out. It should be Kvyat out and Gasly in my opinion. So I'm going to keep this little sign until the end of the year. And I'm going to keep bringing it up every single time Danny does something wrong. Keep the sign. Make sure it doesn't fall off my windowsill. So, yeah. Pierre, good driver. I don't class him as one of my favourites. I don't hold him as highly as I have some of the other, as I do some of the other drivers in this video, especially the likes of the Ferrari boys and George Russell, and even some of the ones that are yet to come. I don't hold him as highly, but I think that's because I have seen him more in an F1 car, and I do know that he has the talent and he's probably got the seat at some point in the near future. Next up is Renault. So the likes of Sergey Sirotkin, he has been their reserve driver for what, 2 years now, I think it is. I know he was the reserve or test driver for Sauber a few years ago. He was also the test driver for Lotus when they were still around. So he has had a feel in an F1 car or several F1 cars before. So I don't see a problem with him or his talent. He came third in the GP3 series last year, just beating the likes of Marcello. But I do think Sirotkin is a good driver. He is a gutsy driver. He is like Pierre, like Charles. He's ballsy. Do rate him as a driver. I did enjoy watching him in the likes of GP2 last year, but he's still not my favourite. He is almost on the same level as Pierre, with a case of they both have the chance, they both have the experience in the F1 cars, and there is something holding them back or holding teams back from putting them in these seats, which is concerning to me. One driver you didn't see testing, because he doesn't do testing, he is just driving with GP3 and is part of the Renault Academy, is Jack Aitken. I rate Jack Aitken as a driver. If you watch the likes of him and George Russell, who are teammates at ART, they are amazing drivers. They have a fantastic car, they have a fantastic support team, have fantastic support from their team even. But Jack and George excel. There is 9 points between them at the minute. George top of the standings and Jack just below. If he didn't have an outstanding GP3 rookie season last year, but the fact he came 5th was pretty amazing. He had wins, he had podiums. He's knowledgeable when it comes to if he should make the move, or I'm not even going to start quoting the quote I was going to do, because all I can think now is of Pastor Maldonado, but whatever. He's gutsy, he is talented, he's got the skills, he's got the speed, he's got the knowledge. There is no reason why I don't see him being in an F1 seat in the future. At the minute he does need more experience, and he is only 21. He needs a bit more experience. I think that he would benefit of doing what they're doing with Charles LeClerc, and the next step is graduating to the likes of F2, where he can get a bit more experience in a different car, a bit more experience with pit stops, and it is an amazing stepping stone to an F1 career. And I honestly think that if you put him and George in an F1 team, with the likes of the same with Antonio and Charles, you will see such a good relationship, you'll probably see such an amazing racing rivalry on the track, but such a good friendship off the track, the same way that Ricciardo and Verstappen have. We'll stick with them, because I can't think of anyone else. I can't think of anyone else. Jenson and Fernando. There's a good one. It's my other bromance. You will say that with them. Kimi and Seb actually have quite a cute romance, but the majority of the juniors have more banter than Kimi, I think, fortunately. Next up, and well, finally, actually, is McLaren. Lando Norris. God bless this boy. At 17 years old, being put into a McLaren F1 car is just a dream for anyone. Fair enough, there are better cars on the grid, but McLaren are such an established and well-known team. It is an absolute dream come true, and I applaud the way he has handled himself. He has approached it with such maturity beyond his age. It is commendable. I do like Lando. I think he is a good driver. He was not really on my radar until last year when I started watching bits and pieces of F3. I got a feel for what a good driver he was. He was obviously up against the likes of Lance Stroll, who was a bit more established, was also very quick and very skillful. But Lando held his own. It's such a young age to be fighting against other people in such fast cars. And I'm saying this now, Verstappen was in Formula 1 at 17. I feel like he's been there forever now. I honestly forget his age. But the way Lando handles himself is just brilliant, and he is a credit to his team and to his family for the way that he handles himself. He has such skills in the car that there are drivers on the grid that don't have the skills that he has. I honestly think they could watch him and they would learn something, and it would make some of the races more interesting, and they probably wouldn't crash half as much. But not only does he have the skills, he has all this knowledge beyond his years with the way he's been mentored by teams and by other racers. You can see he takes in everything that is said to him, and if there's an issue, if he knows that something went wrong, you can see he's almost like working it out in his head on how he can avoid doing that next time round, which is what everyone needs to do, what all racers need to do, and they need to learn from their mistakes. But Lando, like a lot of them, which is one of the reasons that I love the junior races so much, he has banter. The amount of times I have seen people, myself included, who have sent him Lando Calrissian gifts, Star Wars gifts, quotes, you name it, Star Wars related, you will guarantee that Lando has probably received it, and he just takes it in his stride. He's probably used to it by now, God help him. He's probably grown up with this. He takes it in his stride, he has a bit of banter. That is one of the reasons I love the junior series so much. I think that the way that the fan interaction between the junior drivers and the interaction between themselves, even the way that some of the junior teams handle themselves, they are amazing at interacting with fans and encouraging fans to get involved with things. They're more likely to speak to you, to retweet you, like your stuff. They are far better at it than the likes of the bigger teams, and keeping their fan bases involved and engaged is what is going to increase the F1 fan base in the future. You just have to wait until some of them progress a bit higher. Charles's fan base is obviously going to be in a heartbeat when he gets in an F1 car. Antonio's is the same. Lando's, Jack's, Pierre's. I'm not 100% sure about what Sirotkin's fan base is like. I've never really looked into it. I know George Russell has a little bit of a fan base. Jack does have quite a fan base. Pierre, I have seen the fan pages. A bit weird. Lando does have a little bit of a fan base as well. I mean, I was all for. I was on the Lando Norris hype train for testing, and I do feel sorry for him that he had to compete with the likes of Kubica. But he, I think he was probably also on the hype train for Kubica, because if he's anything like the rest of us who are a similar age, he will have wanted to see that. But they have such good banter. They have banter between each other. They have banter with their team, with fans. They're more than happy to get people involved. Jack Swan Jack and Pierre are ones for always liking your comments, as is Charles. He searches his own name. We all know this. Like, this is common knowledge now. He does search his own name, and he likes your stuff. I did a blog post about him a few months ago, and he took the time out, which wasn't an automated email, as far as I'm aware, or message I should say. He took the time out to message me and say thank you, how grateful he was for such a nice blog post, and he was glad that he had my support. And I was more than happy to say, oh yeah, thanks for actually giving it a read and actually seeing it, because he could have just sent that and I could have been absolutely slating him. But I wasn't, because I actually genuinely like Charles Leclerc. But that is what we need. We need more fan interaction, we need more banter, and the likes of Liberty Media are bringing that in now, thankfully. And so are these junior drivers. It is such an important thing to increase the fan base in F1, as we are like rapidly disintegrating apparently. And they're helping. So props to you guys. Absolute props to you. Keep up the banter. Keep up the amazing driving. I can't actually wait until the GP3 and F2 start again, which is in Spa. So bank holiday, which I will miss because I am working. Oh, my life. Don't get jobs, kids. Actually do get jobs. Pay for your F1 tickets. Yes, I'll be working, so unfortunately I will miss the racing. Or more than likely try and find a way of streaming it whilst I'm at work, and I'll probably get into trouble for that, but hey ho. For now though, give me your underrated junior drivers, or give me your overrated junior drivers who you think doesn't deserve the opportunities to test for certain people. I have a couple. I also know that I have missed off loads of teams. Well, I won't say loads of teams. I've missed off a fair few teams. Not because I am dead set against their reserve test or whatever junior drivers. Because I don't rate them as highly as I rate the ones that I have put in my video. This is my opinion, so I know a lot of you have different opinions. So, tell me. I'll also put a link to my social media, my Instagram, my Twitter, if you fancy seeing more of my face. My Instagram. If you want to follow my ridiculous tweets, I'll put my Twitter. I'll also put a link to my blog. I have recently put up an F1 bucket list, and I'm also doing a MotoGP bucket list. If you weren't aware, I do like both. I like anything fast, really. But for now, hope you enjoy your pretend hobbies for the next couple of weeks. I say pretend hobbies. I'm not offending anyone. I have been trying to find things that I'm interested in, and I'm really struggling. And I just end up back on watching YouTube videos of past races, and I'm actually that sad. So yeah, for now, I'm going to sign off. I am going to try and do some more videos in the future. However, I'm away this weekend in Nottingham with my Silverstone / Spa 2018 crew, and then I am down in London until the Wednesday. For now though guys, I am going to sign off. Stay safe, stay loving anything fast.